Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, and Shinrin-yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Monday, January 9th, 4 p.m. Mountain Time 2023. A big day on the sun and a big day on the Earth. The second strongest solar flare of cycle 25 in terms of peak X-ray flux was just observed around AR3184. This impulsive X1.9 flare does not look to be associated with a coronal mass ejection. And just earlier in the day, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake in Indonesia. But the big story, heavy rain, wind, and snow is coming to California and the western U.S. Keep calm. It's boom time. Relentless atmospheric rivers will not stop. California braces for more wind and rain in a barrage of deadly storms. Let's take a look. 12 already dead.
Time soon. We can expect, mudslides and a number of other issues. And so we're asking people to just really use the 311 line for non-emergency, non-life-threatening issues, and 911 when there is a life-threatening scenario.
So these storms have become deadly, and there is no end in sight, unfortunately. Several rivers predicted to crest as we take a look. 2, maybe 3 more inches of rain coming, and much needed moisture. But here are the river crest forecasts for the Consunes River in the Michigan Bar. Going to crest today at 9 p.m. at 12.7 feet. The Tuolumne River, how do you say that, in Modesto, is potentially going to be cresting on the 11th near flood stage. So lots of rivers coming up in California, and the deluge continues. As the power outages are looking a little better, just 132,000 without power. Let's refresh that. Look, it's growing better in the last few hours, now down to 100,000. But the storms are continuing to pummel the West, and we'll get to those forecasts in just a moment. Avalanche in Colorado leaves 1 person dead, another still buried. According to the sheriff's office, 2 snowmobilers were left buried in the avalanche. We warned about avalanche warnings and watches increasing over the coming days, and certainly there is going to be loss of life. Now, snow is coming overnight. Will New York City finally get its first measurable snow? Ho, ho! Probably not. We'll check the models in a moment. But there is active weather for the West and much warmer temperatures for the southern plains. Several impacts continuing for California with more heavy rain, higher terrain snow, and strong winds with additional downed trees and power lines, mudslides, flooding, rapid rises on rivers, flash floods and debris flows and burn scars, avalanches, and infrastructure impacts become even more likely this week. Whew. Meanwhile, above normal temperatures are forecast for the southern plains, so there is some good news. Look at that heavy weather in the west. That is going to persist through tomorrow morning as the snow moves into the Rocky Mountains, which is good news. We need some more snow, ho-ho, and then that second in a series of atmospheric rivers hits California again Tuesday and Wednesday, and it just does not stop, unfortunately. There is another system here by the weekend. Let's take a look at the snowfall totals, shall we? Let's just pause this. Here is Tuesday. Through Wednesday, up to 6 feet of snow could be falling in the central mountains, on the Sierras, heavy snow in northern Utah as well, and snow moving into the Four Corners region here. Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, good news for us, could be dropping all the way down to Taos and areas in central New Mexico and Arizona as well. A little bit of a clipper system up in the northeast should not bring any snow, especially to New York. But as we move the models forward, is anything secret lingering? Probably not. It's looking like the best chance for snow in the models is all in the west. As Lake Mead water levels continue, they're rapidly rising again in the middle of the meltwater and the drop-down season. But we do have once-in-a-century flooding hitting Australia, and it's hitting it in a big way.
Support is being sent to remote parts of Australia's northwest, which are experiencing record flooding. It's said to be the state of Western Australia's worst ever flooding event, causing swathes of land to become an inland ocean. You can see this from these incredible pictures here. Many remote communities are currently cut off and relief supplies are being flown in. Huge livestock losses are also expected. We've seen the Australian Prime Minister visiting one remote town, Fitzroy Crossing.
We've seen massive infrastructure damage. We've seen people who have lost just about everything as a result of this 1 in 100 year flood.
Prime Minister there, but let's take you live now to the town of Connemara in Western Australia's far north. Ted O'Connor is a reporter for ABC News Australia who has been covering the flood crisis. Ted, thanks so much for joining us. Has there been an issue trying to reach remote communities? Do we know exactly what is going on across this whole area that's been hit by floods?
Yes, that has been the most crucial issue, because when the Fitzroy River flooded, it essentially, when the floodwaters encircled Fitzroy Crossing and cut off that town, and as the floodwaters surged down the Fitzroy River, they cut off more communities, and then the rainfall from ex-tropical cyclone ended up cutting off the entire West Kimberley. And so to give you an idea, the Kimberley region is 3 times the size of the UK, so you've essentially got half the Kimberley completely cut off and can only be accessed by helicopter or plane. So it's just an incredibly huge logistical effort to get food and medical supplies and essential goods into people who are stuck in these areas. That's why the army is being called in.
Absolutely incredible flooding happening in Australia. Not a peep from the mainstream media here in the US. I wonder why. Maybe it doesn't fit the narrative. Seismic update. We did have that major jolt, 7.6 magnitude in Indonesia. There is no tsunami warning or watch whatsoever, which is quite interesting. In fact, it was a partial thrust, partial lateral slip. You would know that if you are a member of our Twitter. Yeah, we retweeted this earlier today. This was the earthquake, in fact. Partial thrust, partial lateral slip, no tsunami. Worldwide volcano news update. Doesn't look like anything spectacular is happening on the volcanic front, which is good news. Here we have Cotopaxi continuing degassing. There could be a warning issued for Shivalush here as an intense lava grown continues to build. We could see a big boom coming from Shivalush in the coming weeks or months. So, very active. And the sun is very active. Once again, X flares with no CMEs. This coming from a new sunspot region that just turned around the limb. This would be active region 3184 happening at 1850 UTC. An impulsive X1.9 flare, which does not look to be associated with coronal mass ejections when viewing in the latest A1A193 imagery. And in fact, confirmed here in an update, the event is not associated with the CME. So we can see a video of the event. So let's roll them. Well, that's not a very exciting video, is it? Here, yeah. Let's see that X flare take hold there. Boom. We'll just review that. So even if this was Earth facing, it would have been little worry for the grid, but it would have still produced the radio blackout that it did. So no coronal mass ejection, just a X 1.9 solar flare coming from the limb as in a new sunspot group that is just turning around to face us over the coming days. Solar wind looking good. Let's go back and take a look at the geomagnetic forecast. Currently, the geomagnetic field in the aurora forecast is quiet. We've been around KP 0 to 2, nothing spectacular over the last 4 hours. The 3-day forecast is calm. All is quiet on the sun, albeit except for an X flare. Now, what does it mean that once rare atmospheric rivers and bomb cyclones are becoming more frequent? Well, it means that the jet stream is breaking down into more of a meridional flow, where you can get more extremes in temperature across frontal boundaries. It doesn't mean global warming, which this article goes on to bloviate about, and it's just terrible writing with claim after claim that everything that they say in this article proves that man is warming the earth, which is absolutely not true, because there's not a single peer-reviewed paper that would suggest that. Now, newly analyzed 3,600-year-old silver pieces are the first currency in the Levant, according to a study. Silver pieces from Anatolia reveal robust trade routes and the use of currency 500 years earlier than previously thought. This is 3,600 years before present and some of the first money coming out of the Levant. And here is the paper, the earliest silver currency hoards in the southern Levant, which is interesting because this is in the place where some of the first civilization rebuilt after the Younger Dryas event, and that would be at Göbekli Tepe. Some of the first places we see them using money after the mass extinction. And the next coming mass extinction of humanity may be due to the Rothschild dynasty, the Illuminati, and the 3 world wars. Learn more about it on our Rumble channel. The link will be below, and that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Become a Patreon. Support the work we do. We love you. Be safe.